Tariffs, the most stressful time the world supply chain has been on since the pandemic. 2025 is definitely a turbulence year for the entire world, with the US tariffs has looming on business around the world. The US is the biggest market in the world for any exporter or countries out there. And today we're going to discuss about what are the mitigation strategies that businesses out there are doing to navigate US tariffs. Hi, I'm Tom. I am a US market entry expert. For the past 10 years, I've helped hundreds of brands around the world to go to the dream markets like North America and South Asia. One of the dream market that people always look and want to go to is the US market. This is also where we help a lot of business to get into the US. And let me tell you the stress that my clients and I have been feeling since the tariffs news started. I want to share with you some of the strategies that a lot of businesses out there are using to mitigate this ever-changing rule. A quick recap for those that are not familiar with US tariffs yet. In early 2025, the Trump administration has started to apply a universal tariffs on all countries and all imports into the US, starting with the baseline of 10%, and depends on the trade deficit between US and that trade partners, there will be a reciprocal tariffs on your products. The tariffs will be applied for all imports into the US, including raw materials, industrials, machineries, and even the end consumer products. Everything is being taxed. For the past few months, our team has been in conversation with trade partners, supply chains, vendors, providers across the world to understand what are the mitigation strategies that they are using for their products and markets. So when the news happened, I was actually at a trade show. And to be honest with you guys, nothing changed during a trade show where people are coming together to find good products to bring into their countries. Yes, there were quite a bit of, like reactions when we talk about the US market, but there are two things that could keep you that will make you feel positive about this. One is that there are still businesses that are gonna want to do business with the US. And two, there are other markets around the world where not necessarily being impacted by the US tariffs. That being said, hopefully that gives you a perspective of this news, because I know there's very negative out there talking about how this would destroy the economy, etc. To zoom out and look at the global trade, it is one of the biggest market, but that doesn't mean we cannot mitigate and find a way to do business with it. So hopefully after this video, you'll find a few strategies that can be appropriately applied to your business when it comes to tariffs. These are a few strategies out there that businesses are using to mitigate the US tariffs. Okay, the first strategy is, of course, diversifying your customer base. If your current business is heavily reliant on the US market, this is a good time to start looking beyond the US market. Look at Canada, other countries that doesn't have as much tariffs like South Asia, Middle East, or Africa. If your product is able to sell in one country, then chances are there are other people around the world who also need it as well. In B2B export, if you already don't know it, it takes a long time to find new distributors and partners. So it is a wise thing to start building those relationships right now. Collect those insights, go to those countries, see what is in demand in those countries, and see if you can find and build distributor relationship. One of the best way to meet as much distributors or potential buyers as possible is going to trade shows. Trade show is where import-export people come and hang out, looking at new innovations, find new products, and develop their relationship. If you haven't done that in your B2B export strategy, now is the right time to look into trade show, finding ways to find new distributors in new markets. You reduce your risk through customer diversifications. You decrease the dependency on tariff-affected markets, but of course the challenge is it takes a long time, at least 6 months to a year, to build up a distributor relationship. So You have to take account onto those and start prepare right now. The second strategy is to transition to B2C model. Now, I have a customer who was shipping about 40 to 60 containers per month to the US. And right when the news broke, their business stopped. Like their clients just basically stopped ordering because they need to see how this falls out before bringing new products in. Now, if you are in that category and you feel like, wow, my B2B clients can just put a debt on my business like that, then it is a good time to look into to transition your business into B2C models. The reason why B2C might work for you if you already have an established B2B relationship and market is because you have somewhat a lot of insight about what the market wants in there. You have the resource from earning throughout the years from your B2B business to establish your own brand and your asset value. And basically you can do this by build a direct to consumer brands to increase business asset value and create pricing flexibility. There are a few ways to bring products in B2C models that could potentially reduce your tariffs. It is a good strategy if you have been into the market for a long time, you have insight about the market, and you have the resource to start building your own brand. It will be faster to pivot to B2C within the same market, or I would say diversify a new source of revenue and not rely on your B2B alone. But it does require a different investment in B2C sales, logistics system, as well as just different operation mindset. You have to now think about marketing, sales, maybe even an influencer, how to incorporate all that to sell to a market. But all those things I think is easily mitigate by getting agencies and consultants that are experienced in bringing those products in. US consumers are used to purchasing online products, even high value products online to their home. So it is not a very difficult transitions if you're willing to put in the effort. Strategy 3. This is a strategy that I'm seeing a lot of suppliers, especially Chinese suppliers, that are being risk losing business from US customer. What they are doing is actually looking to shifting the supply sources from China to other countries like Vietnam, India, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, etc. Other emerging markets. So this would help business to create a balanced portfolio of suppliers across multiple countries. This could be done by a US buyers, US business that looking to find other alternative resources, or some of the buyers actually collaborate with the Chinese suppliers to open a co-op ventures in these countries. The strategic benefits of it is, of course, you reduce the dependencies on China supply chain, you reduce the dependency and the effects of the tariffs, you increase their flexibility, and you able to keep your core suppliers, your trusted partner from China going to a different market. Of course, if you're looking to diversify the supply chain, there are a few selection criteria that you should be highlighting or focusing on, like product quality, consistency, the supply chain stability. I would say none of these markets are actually reach the supply chain level like China, but it is worth diversifying purely for the tariffs impact. You should look into the sustainability certifications if your supplier is able to provide these informations. And you also can look into the tariff exposure risk. Like each country will have a different level of tariffs from being applied. Right now, I think the Vietnam is 46%. It may go down. Like other country, I think in Korea is 25%, Thailand is 36%, etc. So each country will have a different tariff exposure. And what you need to do is to balance between the risks and the benefits of these countries and choose one to diversify. Strategy number 4 is leveraging de minimis thresholds. Now, there are two key facts that I would like to highlight about de minimis. Okay, What de minimis is a provisions exempt goods below certain value threshold from import duties and taxes. Or simplified put is that if your cargo or shipment is below a certain values, then you can bring it into the US tax free. So, and the threshold for de minimis right now is $800. There are two things that you need to consider, and personally, I think it's an opportunity when it comes to de minimis. One is that right now, this exemption is no longer valid for products that are made in China, Mexico, and Canada, but it is still available for products made in the rest of the world. Vietnam, India, Singapore, Malaysia, etc. You are still qualified for de minimis. The second thing is that more than 90% of the import transactions going to the US is actually under de minimis. And of course, before the tariffs happened, 90% of those de minimis volume is coming from China. So I would say that is a great opportunities for those who can leverage this, because that is 90% of the US import value. One of the key player who has been doing this is out of the game. So the opportunity is out there for those who can capture this. De minimis is great way to apply for products that are qualified under B2C e-commerce. This is particularly effective for sellers on Amazon, Shopify, TikTok Shop with direct-to-consumer shipping. If you are drop shipping or creating e-commerce products and bring it from China under DDP, chances are it is using de minimis. So if you are one of those brands and now you're like, okay, and now I have to pay tax on all of that, what should I do? I would suggest you to start looking at alternative suppliers that can leverage de minimis, because the rest of the world except China, Canada, and Mexico are still eligible for this duty-free exemption. The key thing to implementing this is that you have to understand how is the operations, how is the shipping and the packaging will be done under de minimis, and who can provide this for you, because not all 3PL logistic providers out there can handle this. This requires specialties knowledge and special operations. So this is where G.O.L solution can add value to your business by helping you walk through what is needs to be done to implement de minimis into your business, as well as providing you technology solutions, service provider solutions that can get this off the ground. The last strategy that I think half of the people out there are using, because I've made a poll on social media and literally half of the people are telling me that this is what they do, is they are waiting and monitoring the situations. Like if people are scared of uncertainty, people are not going to spend, to invest, and to making plans. So there are a lot of people just out there waiting and monitoring the situations. Now, the advantage of this is, of course, you can conserve resources by avoiding hasty decisions. You allow time for negotiations outcome, because as we've seen, news can be changing every single hours on these tariffs. So not making moves could be advantage for you, and you can also prevent overcommitment to any single strategy. The disadvantage of this is, of course, you risk missed opportunities. Like when other people are scared, you are risking also, not able to take up the market share that you want. Potential negative impact, because we don't know how long this gonna prolong, and you can't sit there not making money because of this, right? And the last thing, competitors may gain first move advantage. Strategy waiting could be a few things, right? There are companies that are just basically don't make any orders while waiting for the news. And I think honestly it's a bit unrealistic to prolong that, because averagely it takes about 30 days to bring any products into the US. So by the time you make a decision to book an order, you need another month to make production and another month to bring the products in. So average, you losing out 2 months of potential revenue. A lot of companies, when I say strategically waiting, what are they doing is actually bringing the products in normally, but parking those cargoes in bonded warehouse or rerouting it, parking it in Mexico or Canada and wait for the news. Now, parking your product somewhere else in a bonded warehouse or in a nearby country so that as soon as there's good news, you can bring products in, that is a sound strategy when it comes to waiting. The only disclaimer that I would urge you to look up and monitor all of these tariffs news is look up, customs message and guidance, and actually see how do they calculate the tariffs. When is the effective date of tariffs? It is from the date it going and entering your bonded warehouse or when it enter the country. That will change your strategy when it comes to bringing and parking the products somewhere. I would suggest you to closely monitor this link, this website. This is the custom messaging board where they will give out alerts, instruction directly regarding tariffs calculation. How do you calculate the effective date? How do you calculate different tax layers on top of your product, etc. A very useful resource for those out there are you feel like you're being bombarded with news and you're not sure if it's correct or not. When there's a lot of fake news out there, always go to the official government source. So that is 5 different strategies you can use to mitigate tariffs in your business. On this chart right here is a comparison between advantage and disadvantage as well as cost level and list level of all these strategies. You can take a screenshot of this, pause this video, and really work through this with your team. Whatever is the strategy that you decide to go for, definitely work through what are the options out there. Do your research about who can provide these solutions and apply for you. So when it's time to execute, you know exactly what to do. I hope this video has shown you some useful strategy to apply to your business when it comes to US tariffs. If you would like our help in strategy to plan out the right plan for your business specifically, and let's have a chat and see how we can mitigate this tariffs for your business. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to follow and subscribe this channel for more news about compliance and export regulations.